The shadow. Jung's most dangerous discovery. The dark side of the psyche you refuse to see. There is a darkness within you. A part of yourself you have spent your entire life running from. One you refuse to see. One you deny. One that grows stronger in the darkness of your ignorance.
Carl Jung wrote, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is."
This is not a metaphor. The shadow is not a poetic device or a convenient symbol. It is the most dangerous force in the human psyche. When you deny the shadow, it does not disappear. It descends deeper. It waits. And when it finally erupts, it destroys everything you have built. To know the shadow is to begin the most terrifying journey of self-discovery. A journey that every civilization has attempted. And every civilization has feared. The ancients knew what modern psychology is only beginning to remember. That the darkness within is not your enemy. It is your unclaimed power. Act 1. The ancient root. Before psychology, before science, before language itself, humanity understood the shadow. In ancient Egypt, they called it Set, the god of chaos, storms, and the desert, the murderer of Osiris, the force that disrupted divine order. The Egyptians believed that after death, your heart was weighed against the feather of truth. If the shadow within made the heart heavier than the feather, it was devoured by it, erased from existence. The Greeks went deeper. Hades was not merely the god of death. He was the lord of all that lies beneath. The Greeks understood that the shadow realm was not punishment. It was the other half of reality. They called it katabasis, the descent. Orpheus descended to reclaim Eurydice. Odysseus descended to speak with the dead. Heracles descended to capture Cerberus himself. In India, she was Kali, the Dark Mother, the destroyer of worlds. Not evil, but necessary. Kali destroys so that creation may begin again. She is the shadow as cosmic force, the universe devouring itself to be reborn. The Norse knew him as Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the god who would bring Ragnarok. Bound in a cave with venom dripping on his face, his convulsions of pain caused earthquakes. Even the gods could not destroy their shadow. They could only chain it. The alchemists called it Nigradug, the blackening. The first and most terrifying stage of the great work. Before gold could be made, everything had to be destroyed. Before illumination, darkness. Saint John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul. A period of spiritual desolation so complete that the seeker believes God has abandoned them. But the mystics knew this darkness was not abandonment. It was initiation. The Gnostics saw the shadow as a god. The demiurge. A false creator who trapped divine sparks in matter. For the Gnostics, the entire material world was the shadow. And salvation meant escaping it. Every tribe, every culture, every civilization has encountered the shadow and built rituals to contain it. The tribal shaman dances with the dark spirits. The Hindu ascetic meditates in the cremation ground. The Sufi whirls into ecstasy to escape the ego's shadow. Then came Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who dared to look where others turned away. In 1913, Jung experienced his own confrontation with the unconscious, a descent into madness that he called his Nikaya. Jung documented his descent in the Red Book, a secret journal filled with visions of the dead, encounters with dark figures, and conversations with his own shadow. He called it his most important work. Jung discovered that we carry two shadows. The personal shadow, formed from our own repressed experiences, and the collective shadow, inherited from humanity's darkest history. Wars, genocides, persecutions. These are eruptions of the collective shadow. Jung identified the shadow's most dangerous mechanism, projection. When you refuse to see your own darkness, you project it onto others. Every enemy you hate, every group you despise, carries a piece of your unclaimed shadow. The cost of denying the shadow is always the same. It erupts. It always erupts. Not as insight, but as destruction. As addiction, as rage, as depression, as the inexplicable urge to sabotage your own happiness. But the shadow holds more than darkness. It holds your unlived life, your suppressed creativity, your forbidden desires, your unexpressed strength. Jung said, the shadow is 90% pure gold. Integration, not elimination. The shadow cannot be killed because it is part of you. The goal is not to become pure. The goal is to become whole. To look at your darkness and say, I see you. You are mine.
Jung wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Act 2. The psychological mirror. How the shadow manifests in the modern psyche. In your dreams, your relationships, your addictions, your fear of success. The shadow appears first in dreams. Not as a monster, but as a stranger. A dark figure at the edge of your vision. A face you almost recognize. A voice that whispers what you refuse to hear in waking life. The nightmare is not your enemy. It is a messenger. The shadow pursues you in dreams because you are running. Stop running. Turn around. Look at the face that chases you. It is your own. Every conflict in your relationships is a conversation with your shadow. The partner who irritates you most carries the quality you refuse to see in yourself. This is why we call it falling in love. We fall into the shadow. Your enemy is your mirror. This is not philosophy. This is psychology. Jung observed that the qualities we most despise in others are the qualities we most deny in ourselves. The intensity of your hatred reveals the depth of your repression. Addiction is the shadow crying through the body. Every compulsion, every craving, every substance that controls you is the shadow demanding to be heard. You are not addicted to the substance. You are addicted to not feeling what the shadow wants you to feel. The midlife crisis is not a cliché. It is a shadow eruption. The persona you built for 30 years cracks. The unlived life demands its due. The career, the marriage, the identity, all constructed to avoid the shadow, begin to collapse under its weight. Success does not eliminate the shadow. It amplifies it. The more powerful you become, the more dangerous your unclaimed darkness. History's greatest tyrants were not evil men who lacked ambition. They were ambitious men who lacked self-knowledge. The shadow passes through generations like a genetic curse. Every parent who has not faced their own shadow will project it onto their children. This is how family trauma repeats. Not through memory, but through the unconscious enactment of unhealed wounds. Behind the shadow, there is always a wounded child. A version of you that was told to be quiet, to be good, to stop feeling. The shadow was born the moment you learned which parts of yourself were unacceptable. When the shadow is completely denied, it possesses you. You become the thing you refuse to see. The gentle person becomes violent. The honest person becomes a liar. The shadow does not disappear when ignored. It takes over.
Jung wrote, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality. To become conscious of it involves recognizing the dark aspects of the personality as present and real."
Shadow work. The deliberate practice of turning toward your darkness instead of away from it. It begins with a single question: what am I refusing to see about myself? To face the shadow is to face the most painful truth: you are not who you think you are. Beneath your persona, beneath your carefully constructed identity, lives a stranger who knows you better than you know yourself. Jung developed a technique called active imagination, a method of entering into conscious dialogue with the figures of the unconscious. You sit quietly. You invite the shadow to speak. And then, you listen. What does the shadow say when you finally listen? It says, "I am the anger you were told was unattractive. I am the ambition you were told was selfish. I am the grief you were told to get over. I am every part of you that was sacrificed for approval." Owning your darkness does not mean acting it out. It means recognizing it, naming it, refusing to project it onto others. When you own your anger, you stop making others responsible for it. When you own your fear, you stop making others carry it. The paradox of shadow work: you do not eliminate the shadow by facing it. You integrate it. The darkness does not go away. It becomes conscious. And a conscious shadow is not a demon. It is a servant. A source of energy, creativity, and power. Wholeness is not perfection. It is the acceptance of imperfection. The integrated person is not someone without darkness. They are someone who knows their darkness and is not controlled by it.
Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage."
Act 3. The technological shadow. In the age of algorithms, surveillance, and artificial intelligence, the shadow has found a new host. And it is more powerful than ever. You have a digital shadow now. It lives in the cloud. It is constructed from every search you have made, every post you have deleted, every late night click you hoped no one would see. The algorithm knows your shadow better than you do. Social media is the shadow's playground. The curated self you present online is your persona. The rage you express in comments is your shadow. Projection happens at the speed of light now. The algorithm does not judge. It reflects. It shows you more of what you secretly want, reinforcing your shadow's desires while your conscious self looks away. The algorithm is a mirror, and humanity does not like what it sees. Artificial intelligence is the collective shadow made visible. It was trained on humanity's darkest data. Our biases, our hatreds, our fears, all encoded in the weights of neural networks. When AI discriminates, it is not malfunctioning. It is reflecting. Surveillance is the shadow watching. In every camera, every tracking pixel, every data point collected without consent, the collective shadow observes. Not for safety. For control. The panopticon is the shadow's architectural form. Cancel culture is shadow projection at scale. The mob destroys the sinner not because the sinner is uniquely evil, but because the sinner carries what the mob refuses to see in itself. Every witch hunt in history was a shadow hunt. The filter bubble is a shadow fortress. Algorithms show you what you already believe, hiding the perspectives that challenge you. You live inside a projection, never encountering the other side. The shadow thrives in echo chambers. Deepfakes are the shadow impersonating reality. When you can no longer trust what you see, the shadow wins. In a world where any face can be faked, any voice can be synthesized, the only truth is what you carry within. Every technology has a shadow. The printing press spread both knowledge and propaganda. The internet connected the world and isolated the individual. Artificial intelligence promises enlightenment and threatens extinction. The shadow is always there. The attention economy feeds on your shadow. Anger gets more engagement than calm. Fear spreads faster than hope. The algorithm does not optimize for your well-being. It optimizes for your reactivity. Your shadow is its most profitable product. Digital addiction is the new form of shadow possession. The doom scroll. The notification check. The infinite refresh. Each one a small surrender to the shadow's demand for distraction from what truly matters. But there is a glitch in the system. The same technology that amplifies the shadow also makes it visible. Data reveals bias. Connectivity enables exposure. The digital mirror shows us who we are, and we cannot look away. Reclaiming the digital shadow means refusing to let algorithms define your darkness. It means conscious engagement with technology. It means asking, who benefits from my anger? Who profits from my fear? Technology is not your enemy. It is a mirror. And like all mirrors, it shows you what you bring to it. If you bring unconsciousness, it reflects destruction. If you bring awareness, it reflects possibility. What would a conscious algorithm look like? One trained not just on our data, but on our wisdom. One that includes the shadow in its model of the human psyche. One that understands that darkness is not an error to be corrected, but a dimension to be integrated. Integration in the digital age means bringing the same awareness to your online life that you bring to your inner life. It means recognizing the shadow in every notification, every algorithm, every echo chamber, and choosing consciousness over reactivity.
Nietzsche warned, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you.
The shadow is not your enemy. It never was. It is the unclaimed half of your soul. The part that holds your greatest strength, your deepest creativity, and your most authentic power. Without the shadow, you are only half alive. The path forward is not to conquer the shadow. It is to converse with it. To learn its language. To discover what it has been trying to tell you all along. Every symptom, every crisis, every repeated mistake is the shadow knocking at your door. Face your shadow. Not tomorrow. Not when you are ready. You will never be ready. Face it now. Ask yourself, what am I refusing to see? What am I projecting onto others? What part of me have I been running from my entire life? The shadow is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your truth. And in the age of artificial intelligence, of algorithms that know your desires before you do, of systems that profit from your unconsciousness, knowing your shadow is not just self-help. It is survival. Archetypes of Power. Episode 1, The Shadow. Subscribe for the next episode, The Anima. The feminine force within every man.